Every once in a while, there is a book that hits the nail on the head. And Francesca Sanna's The Journey does this. In a very sophisticated and lively and poetic way, this book manages to deliver a very complicated but current theme in a very simple way. Readers, let's begin. So we are faced here with our title page. We can see it is an award-winning book and also was nominated for several other awards the year it came out. Francesca Sanna is the illustrator as well as the author. And we see a host of characters flooding the front page. These characters, the darkness in the background, it's kind of like it almost illustrates the whole story, really. You will meet all these characters and get a sense of what happens in the story just by looking at the front page. And also the title itself is very explicit of what we're about to embark on. It is a journey, a never-ending journey, really, as we'll find out. It taps on themes of migration and displacement and identity, as well as loss and grief, but also hope and strength. Let's begin. It's a very nice landscape kind of book. I live with my family in a city close to the sea. Every summer we used to spend many weekends at the beach, but we never go there anymore because last year our lives changed forever. And then little ellipses there. Now, there's no particular setting in this scene, and Francesca was very wise to try to make this book as identifiable, as similar to anyone who is reading it. It could be your city, it could be their city, it could be a city anywhere. And the family scene that we see here is in fact a typical family scene that anyone would experience if they live near a beach. People reading, seaweed everywhere, curiosity in this black sea, the father, the daughter making sandcastles. Very seamlessly, very easily. It's all very well and good. The author, Francesca, has managed to, well, she litters this scene here with very important items, well, not very important items, but items which will come across soon. We have glasses, we have this little pumpkin, we have the seaweed, and this is going to come in later on. But a very typical, common scene, actually one that I used to share as well when I lived in Australia, always going to the beach. The water is, however, black, and this is very striking, and it's very good to ask students why they think it's black and not blue. The theme of darkness, as I said at the start, weaves its way through the whole book, and it starts from the get-go. The ocean here, I think, is really kind of a metaphor for the great unknown. Anything could happen or arise out of it, and it's sort of something which sits there, as you play on the beach, it sort of sits there, but it's an incredible force that can always threaten to threaten to destroy us, but also give us luxury and pleasure. So it's kind of this strange sort of place in our psyche which we can find comfort in, but also we kind of have no control over. And this then becomes much more explicit and active in the next page. The war began. Every day, bad things started happening around us, and soon there was nothing but chaos. So this lovely word chaos, I really like that word chaos. The water, the ocean, has now turned into war. It's now become war. It's no longer an ocean. And this menacing shadow overtakes this scene here of the city, and daily it begins to destroy things. The family is seen fleeing, seen running. But yeah, it's very striking how this shadow, this darkness, changes in meaning almost through every page. So in the first page, it's the great unknown. The second page, it becomes quite literally war. And then the third page, and one day the war took my father, becomes strikingly about loss. We have those key, I mean, this is a great page, isn't it? Completely black, very simple text on the left, and these sort of objects, one of which belongs to the father. This was all that was left of the father. Everything else is sort of like buildings. There's the seaweed, there's that sort of pumpkin sea cucumber kind of thing happening there. But it is death. Death taking over and destroying everything. If you remember, behind this blackness was a beach and a city and sandcastles and experiences of joy. But now above that, what's overtaken that, what's flooded that is death and destruction and nothing else, essentially. So we have here the great unknown, to war itself, to complete annihilation and death. And then again, the blackness takes another form, it takes another metaphor. Since that day, everything has become darker, and my mother has become more and more worried. The darkness here becomes depression, grief, sadness, and it creeps in. It's got a way about it. The quality of this darkness is that it can move and weave itself within the household. It creeps and finds and searches. And I think this is incredibly important when you're talking about depression and mental health, is that the way it works is that it doesn't just sort of cover you. Depression and sadness finds ways of getting into the way that you think and you experience the world. So it actually, in this book, you have these hands coming through, and it threatens to go into your mind and search for the exact places where it'll be most effective. So it takes this personification, it personifies depression and darkness, and it sinks in, zones into the center of the family. You have here a beautifully well done here, what's changed in this picture. I've asked many of my students, if you look at the frame on the right, like what's different. The frame on the right, you have the picture, so happy with the father, everyone's smiling, everyone's together. And then you have next to it, oh, there's someone missing, and it's the father. And this is why, of course, they're so upset and sad. The pictures on the wall as well are now pictureless. They're just frames, empty memories. And the hands are sort of creeping over them. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. The other day, one of my mother's friends told her that many people are leaving. They were trying to escape to another country, a country far away with high mountains. So here you have, and it's great here, you have a person from a different culture, okay, wearing a scarf, and they are talking, and they're drinking tea and having coffee, and they are talking, and out comes this beautiful vision of a place far away, high up in the mountains, which I think is also a bit of a sneaky reference to a way of escaping what's happening at this level. High up in the mountains is a place of utter safety. On top of the mountain, you can see all around you. And so being higher in the mountains is one way, a very strong way of talking about protection in landscape. So there's a very typical scene. I think children would see this, people talking and then whispering and creating ideas and dreams as it goes on. A lot of floral background as well, which happens a lot. This I really want to focus on here, and the reason why, well, we don't know this, but I like to infer my own understanding, is that it's a silhouette because anyone could be in this position. This could be any goal in the center. It could be a businessman on the right, or a woman, a businessman or a person doing shopping on the left. It could be anyone, and the silhouette perfectly demonstrates this by not giving anyone any specific features or identity. The person reading this can place themselves in these frames and become a victim of what this family and others have become victim to, which is desolation, separation, immigration, migration. Shin. But yeah, people can place themselves in this position and therefore identify much more with the themes of the book and what it's trying to say. What is this place? We asked our mother. It's a safe place, she tells us. And where is this place? We ask again. So she puts this idea of traveling and moving back into the shelf. She shows us pictures of strange cities, strange forests, and strange animals until she finally sighs. We will go there and not be frightened anymore. So she's actually collecting this book. I apologize. She opens it and it's fanciful. These animals and creatures are huge and they tower above. This is a very common thing in this book. Lots of towering people and animals, and they tower above the family. We know here we're stepping into the realm of fantasy, of ideation, and getting ourselves to, wow, the grand vision of safety and not being frightened anymore. These beautiful animals, all sort of cheery and welcome. And this is the mother taking on a role here. She has to become protector. She has to replace that stereotypical idea of the male protector, but she's taking over that role wholeheartedly and fully, and trying to orientate her family towards safety, but in a way that is happy and cheerful, not gloomy and terrifying. The child here is so engaged in the imaginative process. She's actually playing with the stories her mum is reading her. We don't want to leave, but our mother tells us it would be a great adventure. We put everything we have in suitcases and say goodbye to everyone we know. Now, I sort of sat with this picture for a while and wondered why the animals were so large, and what's going on here. Well, firstly, yeah, and I wondered if the animals represent the hope, the measure of hope that the child is feeling in some ways, because these here on the left, these are the same creatures as on the other page in the fantasy world, and they represent something which is much larger and greater and more hopeful. And you want to sort of move towards that, where she's saying goodbye to everyone she knows. She's saying goodbye to her cat, who can't unfortunately join, and the cat is small and but still somehow retains a sense of intimacy. The mother here has a lot of, and this is the same book of dreams, has a lot of luggage, and this luggage sort of disappears over time. Someone is there to take them. We leave at night to avoid being seen and keep moving for many days. In the first picture, we have all the luggage on top of the car. We also have the mother fully driving and the family within the car. On the next day, we have them somewhat hidden, and we infer that they have sort of spoken to the driver or hiding from the driver, but they've made a deal with the driver, and their luggage has sort of disappeared, but it's actually shrunken. It's not as much anymore there. Within the forest, we have lots of people or things watching. This again, it pushes that suspense of always being watched. The uncertain danger lurks around every corner. It's a frightening scene. Lots of eyes, lots of owls, lots of things watching. Again, we have this the bird. However, the bird sort of appears here, and there's another bird down here, and that is a common motif throughout the story, which we'll find out the symbol of that in a bit later on. But yeah, they escape, they move. Next picture, it feels to me that they're even more submerged and hidden. It's like every day gets a bit more risky and they have to make more more dangerous decisions. The further we go, the more we leave behind. And now no longer do they have a car, but now she's cycling, and there's not much at all to carry. I wonder where all their bags went. I wonder where all their things went. Again, very importantly, we see the birds in the background on the page on the left, following with them. The birds sort of are in this sort of journey of their own. They're sort of migrating throughout the book, and it sort of collects with the family's journey as well. We can sort of see that the nature, the environment, the nature itself is doing this. Excuse that. That the nature itself is going along the journey with them as they go through this. And again, they go into darkness, and that, I think it's beautifully done. This absolutely incredible. The trees, the foliage, that light, and how it's illustrated, it's just so well done. It's soft, so soft, but still managed to retain the sense of danger and darkness. We finally arrive at the border. It is an enormous wall, and we must climb over it. Now, in an interview, Francesca was saying that she really enjoyed this landscape view of the book because it really gave a sense that the characters had to really walk a far way to the other side. The journey is implied in the layout itself, and everything around them is towering above them. Absolutely everything. This small family, there's small little footprints, this small bike on the side. Then now there's no luggage left except for the little backpacks, and it's just absolutely towered by these huge trees, absolutely huge, which is daunting. It's frightening. It's the level of fear that they're feeling. It's like, wow, this is in a forest, and it's going to overtake us. It's really, really powerful. And then this wall is absolutely enormous. We have this sort of fox here, which is quite interesting. This wall is definitely enormous, and they have to walk through all of this and get to that wall, because that wall it's a doorway into supposedly freedom. But oh no, you are not allowed to cross the border. Go back, shouts an angry guard. We have nowhere to go, and we are very tired. The fox is sort of observing. The towering man. Now, the man would never be this tall, but this is the immensity of his energy, of his presence, and he towers above them, and they are looking straight up at him, helpless. We don't have anything to do, nowhere to go. So the illustrations here really try and play with the emotional intensity within the picture itself. So they represent not only the character, but the emotions and the force behind the characters. It's a lovely, lovely way of doing this. And his hand I love how his hand just sort of clamps on the wall and stretches over, and the family is just dwarfed by that power. In the darkness, the noises of the forest scare me. But Mother is with us, and she is never scared. We close our eyes and finally fall asleep. One very important thing that happens here is that we're not using our names. It's me, us, we, it's first person. And this, again, is a nice little hook for children to enter into, because it could be them, it could be anyone. It's not a person's name, they can belong to that. The mother is bright in this picture, cheerful, hopeful, optimistic, and the kids have caught on to this. They're smiling back at her. Her hair, it's this beautiful motherly archetype here, absolutely beautiful. The great carer, like it's Mother Nature as well, just sort of opens herself, and she can take in these children and protect them no matter what. However, on the opposite page, we do see a very, very different contrasting scene where the mother has her eyes wide open in fright, in fear, in panic, and tears are flowing out of her face while her children are sleeping. This is the first time the mother's emotions burst through, come through, and it's done in such a dark, dark way, sinister way, because you can also see these handprints on the side of unknown creatures, unknown fears. It's not just the bodyguards and the immigration staff and the border control that's most frightening. It's nature itself at this point is absolutely terrifying. It's the same darkness that took over the cities. It's the same darkness that killed the father. It's the same darkness that was war at one stage. And now it's a darkness within nature itself trying to threaten the family. Darkness, however, becomes a bit of an ally, which we'll see in a few scenes, but I might come back to this because the mother's hair is also very dark, and there's a nice exchange here of needing darkness as well. Darkness represents needing darkness as well. Needing the protection of darkness. That's it. Needing the protection of darkness. Sort of sneaking into and through darkness to get to the other side. So it's not just something which is an enemy, it's something that needs to be gotten rid of. Shouting wakes us up. It's the guards. They are looking for us, and we must hide. Quick, this way, whispers our mother. So we have those two guards that just overtake this incredibly gigantic scene of plants, and they are looking for the family, and they are crowded under this leaf, and then they use the darkness, they get away, they hide away, and then they see this really strange figure. Now at first it is this we're not very clear what it is. I mean, we can definitely infer that it's a smuggler. I know that because I've read it, but it's a smuggler. That the way it's presented is that it is mysterious and peculiar and scary and dangerous, but somehow has a magnetism about it, has a gravity about it. You just kind of want to like go into its hypnotic way. We run and run until a man we have never seen before appears. Mother gives him some money, and he takes us over the border. It is dark, and nobody sees us. So the forces here of the smuggler, again, are just so strange, covered in leaves and flora. Just so bizarre. He is submerged within nature itself. He is so ingrained within the environment that not even the bodyguards or the control guards can see him. He's so well hidden amongst the crowd, and he comes just at the right moment and takes money. There's a bit of surrendering into the illegalness of what's happening. You have to kind of, yeah, I need to give you money to get to safety, but I know that you're also part of the problem, as it were. But the smuggler, manages to do this. His identity no one knows. He just appears and wants money, and he'll do the job done. But again, his identity is so I want to say Slytherin. That's Harry Potter. It's so sly and suspicious and evil and trustworthy. Don't know. Manages to save the family, putting them over the wall. Finally, we have a beautiful scene which is open and clear. Our journey is not over yet. Our mother tells us the sea stretches far and wide ahead of us, and we must cross it. How will this be possible? The sea, I mean, look again, like Francesca loves to play with this landscape. It's huge. And we see the family just here in the corner. And it's the sublime. It's playing those themes of the sublime, where nature dwarfs the human. Humans have this tendency of thinking that they're so grand and so important, and that they can overtake nature. But in this scene and other scenes before this, nature is definitely in control. It's definitely in charge, and this is perfectly positioned here. No matter what power you think you have, good luck getting through this. And the birds again appear. That migration story is not just happening with the family, but it's also happening with nature and the birds itself above them. The birds are done really small to emphasize how grand and great this landscape, this picture is, and also the journey ahead as well. There's nothing on the other side over here, so we don't know where this journey will go. We have a boat with people who are familiar, people who are waiting to board. They are also trying to escape, and the family has just come at the right time to board this boat. We have boarded a ferry with so many people. There is not much space, and it rains every day. But we tell each other stories, tales of terrible and dangerous monsters that hide beneath our boat, ready to gobble us up if the boat capsizes. It's a nice little word there, capsizes. And the stories come to life in the girl's imagination, where we can say this is the girl. We don't know if it is the girl, but this sort of sea creature, we'll say it's a sea creature, exists under the water. And stories are very important and powerful here. Of course, we tell each other stories because stories have an ending. And when we tell each other these stories, it has that cathartic way of telling us about danger, putting us in the place of danger, but then always coming out with but then the monster was destroyed by a brave warrior, in the end. So stories and fables, let's say. Stories or tales of terrible and dangerous monsters. Yep. So it's a very lovely way of allowing fear to exist in our psyche, but also giving a way for it to be resolved. And it's very, very done very well here. Again, we have this beautiful illustration before us with all these different weird sea creatures and everything like that. Again, birds are in the background flying. They are continuing the journey with the family. The boat rocks and rocks as the waves grow bigger and bigger. It feels like the sea will never end. We tell each other new stories, stories about the land we are heading to, where the big green forests are filled with kind fairies that dance and give us magic spells to end the war. So there's a sort of a need to disassociate from the terrors which are unfolding around them. Again, this blackness, this darkness overtakes them. In this way, it's much more active, it's much more visceral. They are within the scene of something which is wanting to destroy them or destroy anything, really. And then we have those sort of hopes and dreams spilling out and going into. It's the only sign of hope. This is why it's colored gold. It's and yellow and bright. It's the only sign of hope within their experience at this moment. Turning into stories and tales and wishing and visions of the future is the only good that is happening at this moment. And it's spilling out of the boat, trying to sort of find a place to actually exist. Where is it? Where is it? Come on, where is it? Where is it? This beautiful forest, blah, blah. So it's trying to find ways of existing. As the sun rises, we see land for the first time in days. The boat rocks silently to shore. My mother tells us we are very lucky to still be together. That's like an understatement. Is this the place where we will be safe? We ask. It is close, she says, with a tired smile. So, yeah, they see the first stage of hope and safety. We think it's safety. We've reached the other end. But really, as the mother alludes to, it's close. It's closer than where we were. Birds in the background, the lighthouse, which is a very strong symbol there. We travel for more days and more nights, crossing many borders. From the train, I look up to the birds that seem to be following us. So this is the first recognition they have of birds and following them. We can infer that the birds, they've noticed the birds following them this whole time. I don't think they have, but that can be the case there. So again, the birds are on the move. There they are looking up, and he's in wonderment. Then we have just typical people in the train. No particular character. The only character that pops out in this scene are the family that are fleeing. Again, the train is moving. It's movement. This whole book is just one continuous movement from left to right. They are migrating just like us, and their journey isn't very long too, but they don't have to cross any borders. I hope one day, like these birds, we will find a new home, a home where we can be safe and begin our story again. A nice parallel here with migration as a necessity in some ways, the need to move. However, the obstacles that we create for ourselves as humans, which are those borders and those restrictions and those rules, yet nature here sort of sees past that. Nature understands that this isn't really how nature works. And they dream of being like these birds, where they can just move around without these problems, without these conflicts. Here they belong with the birds. Again, it's a fanciful idea, but they belong with these in the realm of freedom. In the realm of freedom. And this is where they end their scene. Yeah, this is where they end their scene, dreaming of wanting to belong to freedom. The end. Hope you enjoyed The Journey by Francesca Sanna.